It's kind of hard to talk about your story without talking about your marriage to Carlos. I know it's not
Mhm.
central to it, but you brought it up. And so I'd love to know, you were married for 34 years to one of the most influential, famous musicians in history, Carlos Santana, but also being a daughter of a musician, an American R&B and blues guitarist and singer, Saunders King. I mean, you come from a background of being around music and the public eye. So I would say when you moved into a marriage with somebody that was really quite famous, uh, how was it for you to be able to face that next step where you're like, I need to move on. I need to find Deborah.
Well, my mother, Jo Frances King, was the seminal reason in my life that I was not overly enchanted by Carlos's fame. She raised us because she was married to my father, and because of her background, she raised us to know that no one person is more important than another. Fame does not make someone more important in an internal life way. And so, even though there was a lot of special treatment and there was a lot of other people making so much about this person, the children and I knew that he was just another person. And although we respect and honor the gifts that Spirit gave him in terms of his musical talent, we also know that other people are just as talented, and we all have some spark of beauty and purity and genius within us. So moving into that world wasn't difficult for me. I definitely had to learn how to present myself in the world because I was being looked at a lot. So there was a lot of me that I tampered down. My sister is the exact opposite of me. She thinks it, she says it, and everyone loves her for that. But because of being in that world, I would think a lot of things, but I would not say them because
Mm.
I knew I had to have some composure and some dignity. And yet, part of me learning to trust myself and accept the fact that I can actually be who I am, even if it's messy, even if I say the wrong thing. I think I had this perfectionism before that I hopefully have let go of now.
When we see people just as human beings instead of human doings, I think
Right.
it really sits with us differently. And I'm clearly I haven't been in a relationship or married to a rock star, but I feel very similar. I don't get overwhelmed or starstruck or enamored because I look at a person for the person as much as I would know them, right? So
Yes.
I imagine that has been influential for your children's upbringing as well. Yeah.
Definitely. They are so grounded and they are so compassionate with others. And yet they also know they do still have to protect themselves because a lot of people will try to get to their father through them.
Mm.
But they're such wonderful human beings. And they were raised by our family is just a tremendous family. My parents, Carlos's parents, all of our extended family is just so loving and kind. And we have such a multicultural family. One of my cousins is Japanese, and of course, my half of my family is African American, the other half Irish, English, Scottish. So we have this beautiful blend of humanity within our own construct. And I think that has been so informative for all of us to have oneness. My general philosophy is indigeneity is the core of all life. And when I traveled to the first time I traveled to Africa, I went to South Africa. We had the pleasure and the honor of attending Archbishop Desmond Tutu's 75th birthday celebration. And we were able to sit at Nelson Mandela's feet on that journey. And being on the soil, when I first landed, our plane touched down in Senegal before we went to South Africa. And as soon as I smelled that air, I knew it was homeland. And I believe that we are all one. As much as people try to separate and say, oh, no, I'm over here, I'm from Italy, or I'm from Chile, or I'm from China. I think I was born into this very multicultural, multi-diverse family so that I would always feel one with everyone.
You've traveled to Africa a number of times, so I could only imagine that these cultures have been extremely influential. And even going so far, you also are a founding donor of the Smithsonian's National Museum of African American History and Culture, making that kind of commitment and
Yes.
truly having a pull to the African culture. What is your hope, your mission there?
When I became a founding donor of the Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture, I felt that I was leaving a legacy for my family, for my
Mm,
children, to know that America is more diverse than a lot of people believe it is,
mm,
and how much the African American community has contributed not only to the building of this country, but to the artistic, cultural, and scientific resources that we have, and to build that into history. One of the reasons I wanted to write about my family, my ancestors, in the beginning of this memoir was because so much is being taken out of history books. So much is not being taught in school now because of the weirdness of the administration to want to turn back the clock on what is true. So I wanted my story, just one little story, to talk about my ancestry and how my African American ancestors came into Louisiana and what they did, and my Irish, English, Scottish ancestors, what they did, and the beautiful, simple poetry of my maternal grandfather. I wanted to show, just you give your story and other people can relate and they can see that, oh, yes, we're all a part of this together.
I love that you mentioned the poetry because I
Mm.
love poetry. And looking through your book, which, by the way, my friends, if you haven't picked it up, and for those watching on YouTube, I'm showing the book, Loving the Fire, Choosing Me, Finding Freedom, now available. I'll have it in the Holistically Speaking Book Nook library, so you can pick it up there, and also in the notes of the podcast. So there'll be links to that. You have beautiful writings in here that are not just your own. So it seems like legacy is really a part of this book.